What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Kix here with Mr. Speech Market Tyrael, the legend himself.
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing?
And we are doing a new podcast show format, whatever you want to call it. Our name is Predict Sharks. We're going to be coming to you with all sorts of prediction market news, analysis, updates. And we also have an analytics app for prediction markets that we are working on that some of you listeners may be able to get access to pretty soon. So we're going to do 2 of these shows a week and then maybe one live stream of like a speech market or something like that a week. Ideally, we're going to keep these shows to a length of an hour. We'll have a recording on YouTube. You can watch it again on X. I'm trying to get Twitter out of my vernacular. You can watch it on X after the fact as well. But thank you for tuning in to episode number 1.
Hell yeah. Also, just to note, you can follow us on our Predict Sharks Twitter at Predict Shark, and we'll have a Discord dropping soon, so we can get in there and have a little bit of a better, more nuanced chat than what you get in the Polymarket Discord. And we'll post, our thoughts in there about specific markets, and that'll be a good spot to hang out.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. So, so let's dive into it. There's been some interesting market moves this week on Polymarket. And just to go over, we're going to spend a little bit of portion of time talking about like market movements, interesting markets that we're seeing. We'll spotlight some interesting stories in the space, just wins, losses. We're going to talk a little bit about the Polymarket airdrop and the strategies that we are employing. And then we will wrap up the show with a little top pick segment. So Tyrael and myself will give you kind of like our favorite pick and then like an underdog pick that, may not hit, but we think it's underpriced, or, you could get that nice juicy 10xer out of. And then just a good value bet to sink some of your hard-earned dollars into. So let's get on the stream a little Polymarket action. So what have you been seeing, Tyrael?
Yeah, man. So some super interesting market movement going on a couple different ones. Will Zelensky meet with Trump in September? So this one just came up last week. Zelensky is in the United States for since Sunday. He'll be here until early next week. And he's, talking about meeting with Kamala, talking about meeting with Joe Biden, talking about meeting with Trump. And things were looking like this was in the bag. This was for sure going to happen. BBC reporting came out confirming that this meeting was happening. However, Zelensky did an interview with the New Yorker that published yesterday, and he went really aggressively after JD Vance, calling him a radical person for his views on the Ukraine-Russia war. He went after Trump a bit, saying, his views are basically he's going to concede territory to Russia, which is just unacceptable in Zelensky's eyes. So this market was looking really juicy, like it's going to happen for sure. People were thinking 80%. And now this thing has ripped all the way down to about a 50% chance right now. This was even down as low as the 20s, 30s, just about an hour or two ago. A CNN reporter also put out a tweet saying that she spoke with the Trump campaign and they were not able to confirm that the meeting was in fact happening. So this is kind of an interesting one to look at right now. We all know Trump, he takes grievances, right? Like if you talk shit on Trump, you're disloyal. He's not super happy and he's going to, slug back at you. But at the end of the day, this is a meeting that Trump probably needs to happen, right? For, the optics of it. He wants to be seen as somebody who's going to be able to negotiate with world leaders. He's going to be able to have these conversations, and he's going to be better at it than Kamala. So I think while there is a little bit of grandstanding going on here, there is a decent chance that this thing still could happen, even with some negative reporting. So this is kind of an interesting one to keep an eye out on. Maybe see if some more news develops here in the next few hours, and maybe we'll have a clear picture on which way this one's going to go. But super interesting one that I've had my eye on the past couple days.
Very interesting. And so you think the no is potentially juicy here?
Well, now this is kind of creeping up a bit
A little bit
in
more fairly
price.
priced.
Yeah, a little bit more, fairly priced. I would have maybe even taken a nibble on the yes here actually earlier today when this was down in the 20s, 30s. I think again, there's a lot of grandstanding that goes on in these conversations, and at the end of the day, Trump needs this to happen more than Zelensky does, right? Trump wants this to look good, like he can negotiate with world leaders, and Trump's famously sparred with people like this plenty of times on social media. You remember Little Rocket Man when he was talking with Kim Jong-un from North Korea,
Yeah.
or he'll go off on all these little nicknames. So keep an eye on this one. Potentially, you could get some more interesting odds on this depending on how news develops, but interesting one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And just in general on the markets, we've seen a little bit of a tightening up in the presidential election winner. So Kamala got as high as like 52, I think. Definitely tightening up here, 48 for Trump, 50 for Kamala. Also interesting here. I mean, these are small moves relatively, but kind of pinging off all-time highs on popular vote for Kamala Harris. That was as high as 77. Now it's down to 75. I've been a fan of the yes on Kamala Harris / no on Donald Trump for popular vote winner. But there has been, some private polling, I guess, that has come out. You would know better than me. That makes the race, especially in swing states, looking very tight. So not surprised to see it tightening up here. And maybe the odds on popular vote winner for Kamala Harris being, toppish here at 77%. I still feel like it would have to be a pretty big blow up by Trump to win the popular vote.
Yeah.
But definitely interesting to see the shifts here in the major markets. Also, we've seen Trump picking up a lead in Arizona, pretty strong lead at 63%. Neck and neck in Nevada, but pretty often those two go hand in hand. It's looking like, decent chance it could come down to Pennsylvania. But you were talking before we went on that even some polling in like Wisconsin, not looking terrible for Trump. So there is potential for some sort of weird scenarios where, he loses Pennsylvania but wins Wisconsin.
Yeah. Mark Halperin, who's a ace reporter, everybody should follow this guy. He was talking on his podcast yesterday about how private polling data is showing that essentially all of these states are in play other than Michigan. Michigan apparently is, Kamala's just way ahead there. It's going to be very, very hard for Trump to pull Michigan. But even Wisconsin is potentially in play. So when you look at the poly market data there that has Kamala up in the high 50s, low 60s, I think could even potentially be in price. That's potentially a bit overpriced there. The gap actually could be a bit closer. And I think it's super interesting to see when you look at Nevada and Arizona, just the ground game that the Republicans really did this cycle, where they got 400,000 additional registered voters over the last cycle. That puts that much more at an even playing field than it was last time. So super interesting to keep an eye on here, but potentially some interesting swing trades that you could take advantage of as the polling data tightens as we get closer to election day.
I had a interesting market come up here. I was tracking one of the big whales, 50 Pence, Mr. 50 Pence.
Yes.
And he's been going long on this right here. Will Harris publicly support a tax on unrealized gains? For those that don't know, I think Biden's policy may have talked about this. Kamala kind of without publicly endorsing it, kind of like teased this out. And it was received, kind of poorly, even by like, Democratic entrepreneurs and business people, and saying this is like not going to happen. This is like a non-starter. Da 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 da. Mark Cuban, who's been talking a lot with the Harris campaign, has said on his end that he thinks that like this is like not like a no-go. Like
Yeah.
she's not going to want to support this, at least not during the election campaign. Who knows what happens after if she gets elected. But yeah, it's interesting because 50 pence here is just scooping up all the shares on the yes side.
Wow.
67,000 shares. So we got a variety of people on the no side, but I thought that was pretty interesting. And we'll show just a little tease of this Polymarket app that we are working on. But this is specifically for 50 pence, his activity on this market, publicly supporting unrealized tax. So you can just see that he's scooping up pretty much buys wherever he can get them on the order book. And early this morning, made a pretty big buy, 8,000 shares. So he's fairly long on this market. Over the past 7 days, he's bought up 21,000, 22,000 in total shares, doing a little market making, right? So there's, a little sell blip here. But for the most part, he's leaning down hard on the yes side. So it's pretty much 50 pence versus everyone else on this market.
That's super interesting. That is a lot of shares at a fairly, not high price, but a decent price there. And I'm wondering if he's doing this in anticipation of Kamala's speech tomorrow, where in Pittsburgh, where she's going to be unveiling more about her economic plans. This is going to be the first that we really see of some solid policy details from her on her campaign promises. So maybe he's anticipating that that's going to be part of the news. For me, I mean, I'm not sure, man. I mean, that's a pretty bold thing to come out and support. It's very, the business community is definitely not for it.
Racist type.
Yeah, I feel like this would be kind of just a self-inflicted wound for her to come out and support at this point. It would really just show the thesis of that this is an election about the base, not about winning the middle, is true. However, when it comes down to those swing counties where you need to win the middle, this seems like this might be a kind of a shot in the foot. So yeah, I don't think she's going to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I thought it was a pretty interesting no there. You can go against 50 pence.
Yeah.
I think sure, there is a chance she says something like that, but I don't know. I mean, I think the odds are good here, right? If like the yes was at like 40 and the no is at 60, I'm definitely not taking the no, but you're getting a little bit more than 2.5 times your money. So I thought that was interesting. This is another interesting one as well. Will Brazil unban X before October? So we have a week from today, this market will resolve. So if X is still banned a week from today, the yes will hit. But we saw a pretty big surge. This was down as low as like 10%, went all the way up to 75%. So a 7X peak to trough here. That was on the news that I think X is complying or looking at complying.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't been following this one as closely. The last I saw was X a couple of weeks ago, kind of digging their heels in and saying they're not going to change their counsel and they were sticking to their guns. But it sounds like they are finally caving. Interesting.
Yeah, I just think it's, even if they do cave, I think, the no, the no getting almost 2x your money here with only 7 days to resolve is pretty nice. If I could have gotten some no's at 78, that would have been phenomenal. 22 on a no, you're up almost 3x already.
Oh yeah,
Pico top. But yeah, I just thought that was a cool one. A kind of short. This will resolve by the 30th, so Monday night.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then I think there's, I mean, you mentioned it. There's some interesting, like U.S. Election, like kind of like the swing states right here, right?
Yeah, Wisconsin was one in particular that was on my mind. With that internal polling data showing that things are in fact a bit more close than people think. And if the trend it continues, right, where the race continues to tighten as we get to election day, you could see some movement on this one, where it gets either more towards even or potentially even Trump sneaks out a win in Wisconsin, where you're buying down here in the low 40s. That's a pretty nice little upside, versus something like the presidential market, right, where it's more of a 50-50 odds. Another one I think is pretty interesting is which party wins the presidency in popular vote. So there's a market here where you can take Republican presidency and Democratic popular vote at 28 cents right now. And the order book is fairly thin, down to 25 on the yes side. So I think that's another interesting one to look at.
Is this
If
which party wins presidency plus popular vote?
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you pop open that our presidency popular vote,
Yeah.
and then take a look at that order book, it's fairly thin here, down to 25. And I think throwing some bids in here and seeing if some of those could hit could be interesting if you have some conviction in that the polling data could be off and the private polling data is more accurate than the public, right? I think, some of these other markets are a little bit tougher, right? Like Republicans winning both, just probably not going to happen, right? That's a Republican hasn't won the popular vote in 40 years. I don't see that changing this election. But this our presidency depopular vote has a lot of upside if that does happen. I would almost rather take that than anything on the presidential market is like a long-term hold if you have conviction that Trump would win the presidency.
Interesting. Yeah, if you're into hedging, right? Let me see if this math works out, right? So if you take Democrats win both 50%, our presidency depopular vote, so that covers depopular vote, right?
Correct.
That's at 78. Then if you go here and you take the no on Kamala Harris, does the math on that work out? I don't think so. Actually.
Not
it's
quite.
Over 100.
Yeah, it doesn't quite work. But I still think, like, even if you took the two options that you just discussed, right? Democrats win both, and then our presidency plus popular vote, you're looking pretty good. I mean, the thing with the Republican popular vote winner that just makes it so difficult is, you're competing against California, New York, right? Like Chicago, like all these big populous centers that are just the numbers are overwhelming, right? Yeah. So I just don't see that trend changing.
I liked this play a lot for a while. This is one of the first plays I talked about back in like July. If you remember me talking about this, because you could get this at like 37, right?
Yeah.
And this really hasn't moved much. But you basically could have taken both like during this period of time for like 60%, right? And now it's almost 80%. So that's been a great trade, because those seem like the most likely options. But some hopium farmers think that this isn't completely out of the question. It's crazy that this was at 60% on the assassination attempt night. Man, there was some top buying, emotional top buying there, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think like people just sometimes get caught up in the whole like news cycle or like recency bias, and they start to just go crazy and forget to step back for a minute and think about the big picture. It's a long road to election day, man. It's so much has happened since July. I mean, think about it, dude. Like Biden dropped out. Like we had Kamala rush in and get the, secure the nomination. We had this crazy VP market go on with Walz and Shapiro, Bashir. It was just, it was crazy, man. And then we had this other debate that was just like a wild debate. I don't think anybody could have predicted every event perfectly up until this point. It's been quite a roller coaster.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a roller coaster. If you've been taking the right side of the swings, you're definitely a very happy camper. Um, so I thought this was a fun little story to um, highlight right here, which is the one of the best traders or the best trader, Domer. Um,
Yes.
one of the top trade. I mean, these guys are up millions of dollars, so sometimes they they like to trade a lot of markets. They're trading all day, so they'll they'll even get into some things where maybe they don't have an edge. But he lost 4K. He calls Thread Guy Hunger Games. Asked Trump a question. Was trading at 8 cents a few days ago. Paid 25K to attend a dinner with Trump and managed to get Trump's attention. He says, respect the hustle. He deserved it. Good luck to him against Katniss Everdeen. Um, so yeah, he got he got it in the bag. So that was a hell of a cook. If you got in at 8
Oh
10
yeah.
cents, that was a 10x right there.
Yeah, I mean, you gave me a little tip off on that one, kind of bringing my attention to it. And when I saw like, because the whole thing that spurred this, right, was like Trump said he was gonna buy a ticket to the collect Trump cards NFT dinner and try to get an interview with Trump. And everybody was thinking like, no way, dude, there's gonna be so many people there. There's no way he's actually gonna get anything with Trump. But he bought like the 25K package for the gala dinner, dude. So you knew it was going to be a limited amount of people.
Yeah.
He was going to get at least one shot at like shaking his hand or putting a question in. And I had faith on TG to put it through, dude. So
Yeah.
what a cook, dude. This was a crazy freaking market. Super fun. Thank you, Thread Guy, for spending 25K on this dinner. God bless you, man. All the DJs love you.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is one of those things where like reading the rules like matters, right? Because like if you just read the title of it, you're like, there's no way Trump's like sitting down for an interview with him, right?
Yeah.
But when you read that it's like literally all he has to do is like ask Trump a question and have Trump respond. Then when you pair that with the knowledge that he was going to the event, made it an interesting grab. It sat at 50% for a while too, so there was still a 2x on the table. But story number 2 from Domer. This is hilarious. So there was a market out there, the IGEN token. If the IGEN token was going to be transferable before CZ gets out of prison, Domer says 5 months ago, the biggest net loser in Polymarket history, username the real Batman, made a large bet at 80 cents that CZ would get out of prison before the Eigen token was transferable. Domer says he was his entire counterparty on this thing. They ended up both with like around 75K shares. But I guess real Batman may have dumped some of the shares out, right? Didn't hold conviction or whatever. Because but then I don't know when this screenshot is from, but basically what happens is CZ's release date ends up being September 29th. And Eigen officially announced that the transferability of the token will be turned on the 30th, literally like hours later. So he lost this bet by
That's wild.
Hours.
That's absolutely wild, dude. And so did Batman dump enough to like make it to where both of them lost money, or
that's what I'm not sure on, right?
Because that would make it even more funny, dude. If like nobody won on it, like everybody just ended up with an L,
right?
Oh man, that's so funny, man. I mean, these are just great examples of like even great traders in this game sometimes have an off market, right? Like nobody's bats 1,000. Just part of the game. Sometimes you'll make a trade and it just won't work out. So, props to Domer. He's the GOAT. These are hilarious stories.
Right?
Good shares, dude. Just so unlucky on that one, dude, by one day.
Yeah, and this is the market right here. Um, See, I mean, like the spread on the shares was wild, right? Because you can see
Damn.
all these people like were doing yes up to 37%, ends up being a no. And then you were profitable, like a lot of profitable buyers up here, but like biggest holders. I don't know if this market has resolved yet. Let me check on.
Well, it probably hasn't until they actually release him, because like UMA wouldn't let it resolve until the event like actually happens.
Gotcha. So we see Just Scam here still on the no side. Um, Average cost 93 cents. But here he is on the yes side. All right.
Yeah.
So he lost 68% so far on the yes
I
side.
mean, his average cost was like, what was that, 0.13? I mean, so he had a really big upside if this thing did go his way.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, is the real Batman now going as Kingfisher? Is that
No, I believe that's a different individual. And then well, maybe,
let me see if I can
because
find
the cost range should be a bit higher, right? If Domer was picking it up around like 13 cents, then
yeah.
he should be somewhere around like the 85 to like 90 level. Perhaps he sold so much like that he lost money on this trade, or he just exited when the odds went ripping up.
Yeah, so this is him on the 7-day. So he wasn't in this market at all as of 7 days ago. At least like no buys and sells, right? He could still own
Wild.
some shares. Yeah, so it's very potential. It's very potential that he took the wrong side. He took the right side, but top bought it, sold for a loss, then it hits. Just Scams his counterparty, thinks like I'm counter trading, the worst trader of all time. It does, and the other side hits, which would be wild. Dorado's here. He said I almost hit on Ellison. What were your ranges on Ellison? Were you like in the like 3-4 year range? But yeah, this is the real Batman right here. Total profit and loss negative 2.6 million. Big hole to dig yourself out of.
Jesus Christ.
Doesn't have a lot of active positions right now. Biggest one is will Biden finish his term? I pray to the God that
I mean, dude, when you pull that up like in that, like you own that profile, your butthole's just got to start puckering. Like that's rough, man.
No, but look, dude, he was holding it. I can transfer before CZ gets out of position, so his average cost was 66 cents. But he's still up. He still have 23 grand. So I mean, a little 1% dent in the P&L for him.
Wow. I mean, holy cow, man. I'm still getting over that 2.6 number. That's a lot.
Yeah, stuff like will Biden win the popular vote, just negative 251,000. That's just brutal.
Yeah. Hey, well, God bless him, dude. He had one workout here. I hope your good luck streak continues. May the Polymarket gods be in your favor, Mr. Batman.
Could be a little trend reversal for him. Okay, cool. So we're gonna talk Polymarket airdrop and then top picks from you and me. So let's see. I forget who leaked it out officially on the timeline. I think it was this DB guy, DB tier 10K.
Yeah.
Sources out a lot of information, known for it. So it says Polymarket considering token launch from the information. Also talks for new funding. They're trying to get another $50 million. And yeah, with the election coming up, you would think potentially that if they were going to do an airdrop, doing it in Q4 would be pretty good timing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Polymarket's kind of hitting peak form, in the zeitgeist right now. So it's the time to strike before the election ends. And it just makes sense, when you got a bunch of investors coming in and there is some use cases for a token on the platform, like they're gonna get a token in there. I think it's absolutely gonna happen. Just a matter of time.
Yeah. So just like quickly, what do you like? Let's just speculate on the airdrop itself, how much it could be worth, and then also like what the qualifications are, what they will, look for rewarding, et cetera, et cetera. My take on it is that I don't know. I mean, you would definitely think that they would maybe want to launch it in Q4 and just like hit the, kind of peak euphoria on the timeline. Only downside to that is that like if their volume goes down really big in Q1, like does that get tied to the token price versus like if you launch it in Q1, right?
Yeah.
And the volume expectations already reset a little bit. There's all sorts of strategies that they could go with. I do think in terms of like a token that people would be interested in speculating on, and one that could have a lot of value. I think this definitely checks off the boxes for me. When you think that it's arguably like the top crypto app that is like broken into mainstream, right? Like Polymarket is talked about on Bloomberg, on CNN, right? Like their data pipes are getting fed into all of these different things. So it I think people may undervalue what this could actually be worth, right? When you think about like, for example, Uniswap is worth over $5 billion, right? So is it crazy to think that Polymarket could come out of the gate, circulating, like let's say they 20% of the token comes out, right? Like circulating around definitely above 500 million, maybe close to a billion. I don't think is crazy, and I don't think is out of the question.
No, and I mean you have to think about like political campaigns as well to add to that list of people who have their eyes on this data, right? Outside of just like news organizations, this is some of the more accurate information you can get from people with real money on the line. They're very aware of this stuff. They're following it, and you have to think about how much the polling business is worth, right? Like to political campaigns, to the news. I 100% think this is going to be a very valued token. It all depends on what they do with it too, right? Is this just like a governance token? Is this a utility token? Like what does this token do? That could affect the valuation of it, just the basic tokenomics of it. But yeah, I mean, I don't think the valuations you threw out, 500K to, or excuse me, 500 million to 1 billion out the gate is crazy. And I think you brought up a great point there as far as just the risk of doing this too early, right? Because there will be a volume drop off after the election. That's just a fact. If you look at the historical data of prediction markets, there's a bit, there's a good trough there post election. This time there's far more users than they had in the 2020 cycle. So you would think that the trough is going to be much higher this time than previously. Yeah. And there's just an integration within the zeitgeist, like you just talked about, that didn't exist in 2020. Yeah. So that will 100% be higher. But maybe the move is for them to kind of wait until like a December timeline after the election dust settles, or mid-November, and then make this play. That way they don't have these crazy expectations they're set to meet. It's a great point.
Well, what's all the other possibility is that they do launch in Q4, and then they like announce like airdrop farming, like Blur or Blast style, for the next year. Basically, like in their heads thinking like, can we launch the token at a high market cap and then get people super excited to want to farm it in 2025, right? And like that's how they kind of try to push volume through. I mean, who knows? But if you're out there and you're wanting to get exposure to the Polymarket airdrop, I mean, the most obvious thing is just to use the app to make trades, right? I personally think, like when I'm just speculating, like if you were to put yourselves into their shoes, so like the first thing that they're just going to look to eliminate is like Sibblers, and I see a shit ton of Sibblers on the app already. They're very obvious. They'll do things like they'll buy 100 shares and then they'll sell 100 shares within the same minute and lose like 15 cents, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that like that kind of stuff is like super obvious, and will get discounted. I
Yep.
think that if you're trying to look for a normal user, a lot of normal users are going to hold positions for like an extended period of time, right? So I think that
Yeah.
like if you buy things and you're holding them for at least a couple of days, if not weeks, if not months, right? There may be kind of like a weight to like the duration that you held the shares for. Um, because you know if you're holding the shares for a long period of time, then you're taking on risk. People can't really like Sybil farm with like that level of risk effectively. So I think that's like a possible one. I think you know markets traded. I could go either way on that. I could see them not making that a big deal at all. I could also see them like giving you like a bonus or a reward if you've traded more than 10 markets or more than 100 markets, right? Just basically like, are you participating all over the place? Maybe there's some rewards for like bonding, proposing resolutions and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
Um, but other than that, I think a lot of it's going to come down to just like volume. So, you know, one thing that you talked about like liking to do in the past was like if something is like a sure thing, but it hasn't gone to resolution yet, and you can buy up a bunch of like the 99% shares, um, you can record a lot of volume on something that's like pretty much guaranteed. Pretty much guaranteed is the key point there, right? Nothing is risk
Yeah.
free. There has been resolutions that have like swung the other way and blown people out. But I think on the ones that are like for sure, like, you know, will Bitcoin be above 63,000 on the 27th, right?
Yeah.
Um, like once that happens and it passes the threshold, you know, like there's no way someone can dispute that and actually get away with it, right?
Yeah.
So you can, you know, get your volume numbers up there a little bit. What are your kind of ideas, strategies, or anything you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I think I heard a rumor that the volume that people are doing, like between dispute, or excuse me, between proposal and resolution, that's at like that 99.9% volume, could potentially be excluded from the airdrop.
Gotcha.
Like they're going to do some filtering on some of that stuff, and that was from someone who's fairly decently tied in with the UMA bit.
Yeah,
So I feel like that may be an excluded factor.
it
One
makes
thing that
sense
I,
to exclude it too. So
yeah,
that's good
and I
insight.
mean, yeah, it's cool in the sense of like it's like instant liquidity, I guess, to get like out of the shares immediately. But like really, it's just solely people trying to airdrop farm. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And they they want to eliminate that along with the civil folks, right? They want to make sure this is
totally.
going to actual users. So like I think they could potentially, when you're talking about markets traded, you may get a bonus for holding things through to the resolution versus just
Swing
strictly
trading
trading
and
in it, exactly
yeah,
trading in and out of the market, right? Because like if you're a user that's holding things to resolution, that's generally how a typical like average Joe would behave on the platform, not an airdrop volume farmer, right? So I think that's, you know, a good thing to do. Um, and then just like naturally, right? Like certain types of markets favor higher market counts than others. So like I do a lot of mention markets, right? Each word that I trade counts as an individual market. So like your numbers will go way up, or like if you're doing
yeah,
sports betting, right? Like your
yeah,
numbers
yeah.
are
All the
going
different
way
games.
up.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think resolution is a key component of
I
that.
don't think they'll. I
Um,
don't think they'll punish anybody that is like only trading a few markets. But I could see
no,
them give some sort of like nominal reward, like if you've traded a lot of like power user, you know, or something like that. Super Plus says it's definitely 1 billion plus. It's the first crypto project with true normie product market fit. I agree.
yeah,
I also think it's probably one of the most fun like airdrops to farm because of the fact that um, like you can make money while you're doing it. Like that's why like Blur was a great airdrop to farm, right? You could have made money swing trading the NFTs and getting points. I think the same thing is here. I think it's like a fun market. There's tons of opportunities. We're hitting 2x's, 5x's, 10x's, but we're also hitting 30% returns on size, which is nice. We're also losing money too, right? But like you can be net profitable and farm this airdrop, which I think, and it's a fun product. You and I like it a lot.
yeah, these are the best airdrops to participate in, man, because it's just a great product, you know, that I would use this whether there's an airdrop or not, right? And like
Exactly.
these are the best ones to get an airdrop from. And honestly, those are the ones that are going to be valued the most, right? Because it's an actually good freaking product. versus like these falsified volumes that get produced by some of these other airdrop centric projects. So yeah, man, I'm super bullish on the Polymarket token. Super bullish on this airdrop. I think this is just going to continue to grow in size over the years. This is a really well done product that has really hit a critical mass in the public. So I love it.
Dude, crazy fun fact, by the way. Caroline Ellison, sentenced to 24 to 35 months in prison, was at 2 cents. So just speaking of multiples, that's a 50x if you got in. And there was money on the market too, so you could have gotten like a decent amount of size.
Damn.
Yeah, so that's pretty awesome. All right, let's wrap up the show. I think this was a great first show with our top picks segment. So I got mine almost ready to go. I just need to figure out my favorite pick. So if you have yours ready to rumble,
yeah,
let's talk about them.
My favorite pick is shockingly going to be right in my normal wheelhouse of mention markets. But this one has some very, very juicy odds, and the landscape has changed today to where I just really like this one.
All right, what's the name of the market?
What will Trump say during North Carolina speech? This one is going down mañana, tomorrow. And Comrade Kamala 3+ times is sitting at 22 cents, 20 cent on the bid. Nice little 5xer. This one is so Trump has been off of the Comrade Kamala line. Today he brought it back in his speech. He hit it 2 times in his talk about the economy and the tax code. It seems very much the Comrade Kamala is back. This is going to be a stink yes hit. People really are sure that this thing is a no. Bidding up here in the 79. I love this pick right now. Throw some bids in the 20s there. See what can hit. I think this could be a really nice one tomorrow.
Dude, I love that. So cool. So that is your favorite pick, and then what is your underdog pick and your value picks?
I think the underdog pick would be the will Trump meet with Zelensky. Okay. If that one can get into a little bit better price range, I would absolutely nibble on that one.
On which side again?
The yes. So if that will go, down into the 40s, 30s again, I think Trump has incentive there. And again, this is an underdog pick, right? This could
and in September, there's only 6 days left, but Zelensky also is in America right now. So that
Zelensky is in America right now. Prior to this little spittle spatter that went down over the past 24 hours, it was looking very sure that this meeting would happen. Zelensky's plan was to come to America specifically to meet with Biden, Kamala, and Trump, right? There's a little shit talk going on, but I think that this very possibly still could happen. Potentially this is an interesting one.
Zelensky and Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, signing some bombs.
Yeah, I was telling my wife, man, while we were eating lunch today, I was going how weird is it that these dudes sign bombs, man? It feels such an odd thing to do. But yeah, I saw them together in Joe's hometown of Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Scranton.
Good old Scranton Joe, dude. Yeah, man. I think this is
maybe not the best press move.
It's
value
weird.
bet.
It's
best
freaking
value
weird.
bet. So value bet, like a high probability thing. You just think it's easy money.
Yeah. Don't take one of yours right here. Let me see a good value bet that I really like here.
All right, so I'll start off with my favorite underdog bet here. Obviously, I don't think the potential of this is super, super high of happening, but it's high enough that I forgot I didn't add this to Sage. It's high enough that high enough of a chance. I think you could swing trade this potentially. I also think that it has a chance of happening. So this is the Maryland Senate election winner right now. We got Democrats at 91%, Republicans at 12%, so just shy of a 10x return on this. What is interesting to me is if you know about the market, the Republican is Larry Hogan, who is a Republican governor for Maryland up until 2023. So he left office last year and he won 2 terms. Very well liked governor, right? You kind of have to be well liked to be a Republican in a Democrat state. And I don't know. I think this market is fundamentally mispriced because I don't think a ton of people are. Makes sense that people aren't going to be like super privy to certain, markets or segments. They're just thinking Maryland is super for Kamala, therefore they're going to win the Senate as well. The Democrat opponent is Angela Brooks. Fun fact. So she was like a state attorney general, maybe for two sectors or whatever like that, or 2 terms. But there was information that came out. 1 out of 3 Marylanders say they don't know who she is. And if you ever talk to someone and you're like, that movie or that person, most people will just say yes, even if they don't know. You know what I mean? So for it to be 33%, in my eyes, means I think it's 50, 60%. So you got 50, 60% of people that don't know who she is in the state that she's running for, up against like the former governor, 2 terms. So I'm not saying this should be 50-50, but if you look at the polling, it's tighter than maybe what this suggests. Also, I think that there's just a lot of people out there that will vote Kamala, and then they'll look at the next line and they'll be like, I don't know that person. Oh, I know Larry Hogan. He was our governor. Like, he was a good governor, right? And potentially check that box. The counter argument is that the Democrats are pushing super hard for people to go like straight down ticket and not split ticket, right? I've even seen signs in Maryland that says Harris at the top and then also Brooks underneath, and it says like vote all Democrat or something like that. It's basically people saying like, you don't know, we got to frame this person with Harris just so you know that like we need them both to win. So I think it's a decent underdog bet. I also think that, coming down into the final stretch, the last month, like who knows, his chances could improve, and this could easily go from 10% to 20% or 25% or 30%, and you can exit without having to go into resolution. So that is my underdog pick. My value pick is this market right here, largest company on September 30th. So Apple is up. I think their market cap right now is 3.46 trillion. And then Microsoft is 3.19 trillion. So it's like 5-6 percentage points ahead of Microsoft. And they've been the leader the entire time. And it hasn't really changed. They're both tech companies. The only way that you get wrecked on this bet is if like some terrible news, like the Department of Justice is investigating Apple or something like that, right? I think what's interesting to me is that this resolves at the end of Monday night, right? Which means you really only have 3 days of trading this week: Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Weekend, there's no trading, obviously, and then Monday, right? So they really just need to hold up for 4 more days here. So 95% doesn't seem like a terrible scoop up here for me. It's not a lot of money, but that's what a value bet's all about. And this is a quick resolution one instead of like a political one that you have to wait till November.
Nice. Yeah, Apple just dominating as always. I think the underdog pick you had is interesting. I mean, if you think about like a guy who has a ton of name recognition versus somebody who's really unknown, that seems like it's a fairly decent odds of happening. The real two biggest like factors usually in these races are incumbency and name recognition, right? When you're talking about Senate or congressional seats. So that leads a bit more bullish than where it's sitting here at 10 cents, in my opinion.
Right.
Sure.
And I
Yeah.
even have like an anecdotal evidence, which is one of my friends in Maryland is going to vote for Harris and then said they're going to vote for Larry Hogan because they don't know who the other person is.
Yeah.
The only way they counteract it, they're pouring some money into it. They're trying to like tie Larry Hogan to being a part of Project 2025 and like abortion and like Trump But like
Yeah.
anybody that was in Maryland for that 8-year term knows that he wasn't a huge fan of Trump, knows that he doesn't like hold like those aggressively conservative Republican values. So I don't know. I think it could be a sleeper, man.
Yeah. Hey, man, it's definitely interesting at those prices. I like it.
Awesome. And then I'll do my my last one, and then you can do your last one, okay? So my last one here, I want your take on this. Taking the yes on one debate. What do you think?
Ooh.
Is that sweaty?
So I think this is sweatier than people think.
So then you go for 2, dude, for my next underdog bet.
Yeah, like I actually considered talking about this as an underdog bet. Two debates between Trump and Harris, because right now the reason this is priced so high is because of a lot of grandstanding that has gone on in the public arena, right, by Trump saying that, hey, this is not going to happen by any stretch. I won the debate. Well, in the background, there's reporting that's come out that his advisors are telling him that he has nothing to lose by doing a second debate. He should do a second debate, have a more disciplined performance that puts him in a better eye with the public, and potentially actually squeak a win out in this debate versus Kamala. And, it would be right there in October. It would be right before the election. It could potentially be something that swings voters in the middle that could carry him through to victory if he did have a good disciplined performance. I'm actually like genuinely shocked Kamala is the one who's trying to go back in for a second performance, because she did, frankly, she kicked his ass in the first debate.
It's because of what the polling numbers are saying. It has to be.
Yeah. I mean, she knows that internally the data is showing that this race is far tighter than it looks in the public facing polling data. And I think, Trump has everything to gain here. Kamala has everything to lose. I think this very possibly could happen. A lot of this grandstanding is to get like more favorable terms, right? So like, okay, what rules do we get for the debate? Who are the moderators? What network is it on? He just wants to control some of the table if he does go in for another debate with her. So I think this could happen. I like this as an underdog pick.
Some terms.
That's what I think. I think this is grandstanding. And I think it's interesting upside here in the 20s. There is plenty of time for this to happen, right? Like if the campaigns work it out in the next, 2, 3, 4 weeks, it could absolutely happen, right? And like, there's also this factor
too. The news networks certainly want it. They would work overtime to.
They'll do whatever they need, baby. Yeah. Dude, you want to do it? You want to do it in 3 days? Let's do it. We'll find the moderators. Like they want this debate. Like I think Trump has upside here. This is interesting. I think it's grandstanding. So, underdog pick. I think this one's pretty interesting.
I like it. And what was your last one? I forgot what.
So sorry to throw a fucking wrench in your in your one theory, but that's my take.
I like it. You sold me on the 22 side.
Yeah. I should have put some bids in before I talked about it on.
It's okay. There's time. There's not too
many
viewers yet. It's the first podcast. There's not millions of viewers yet.
There we go. And speaking of million, I think a great bet if you're looking for it is again going back to the Trump North Carolina speech, million 10+ times. Million he just rips millions on millions on millions on millions. And you can get this one, you know, in the low 90s if you're just looking for a nice sure
100%
bet to
gainer.
make a little, you know, return ski on it. This is a very, very solid one. I was looking at the recency data here just earlier today, and we were looking at, you know, the last 5 events 14 times, 14 times, 16 times, 20 times, 25 times, 37 times. So this is something he really likes to say.
A milli, a
Pretty
milli, a milli, a milli.
banger. Where's Wheezy, man? What happened to Wheezy?
Right? Rest in peace. Well, sweet dude, great first show, man. Love the picks, love the discourse. We'll try to do another one at the end of this week, and we'll perfect timing. We're ending at about 55 minutes. We're going to try to keep the show length from like
Beautiful.
40 to 60 minutes. If there's not a crazy amount of topics to talk about, it'll be on the shorter end. But thanks everybody for tuning in. If you want to stay up to date with everything going on with Predict Sharks, follow us on Twitter at Predict Shark. You'll get some early access to, you know, Discord, a software app we're working on, etc. But thanks for your time.
Thanks for stopping by, everybody. See you on the next one.
See you, Super Plus.